In the world of diets, there are always new and sometimes radical ideas emerging. One of the most talked about recently is the carnivore diet. This is an eating plan where you consume only animal products, meat, fish, eggs, and sometimes dairy. It means completely eliminating all plant-based foods, such as fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, and seeds. It sounds extreme, and for many it goes against everything we have been told about healthy eating for the past several decades. So why would anyone choose to embark on such a restrictive journey? The reasons are often as compelling as they are varied, driven by a desire for profound change. Many people who turn to the carnivore diet are seeking relief from chronic health issues. They might be struggling with autoimmune conditions, persistent digestive problems like irritable bowel syndrome, or stubborn inflammation that does not seem to respond to conventional treatments. For them, the diet is not just about losing weight, it is a last-ditch effort to reclaim their health. They have often tried everything else without success. The promise of the carnivore diet is its simplicity. By removing all plant matter, you might also remove the compounds that could be triggering these issues, offering the body a chance to heal and reset itself. Then there is the allure of rapid weight loss and enhanced mental clarity. These are often the most celebrated benefits shared in online communities dedicated to the diet. People report shedding kilograms with what feels like minimal effort, simply by eating until they are full. They also speak of a fog lifting from their minds, replaced by sharp focus and sustained energy throughout the day. This is a powerful motivator. In a world where many of us battle with afternoon slumps and mental fatigue, the idea of a diet that could sharpen our cognitive function is incredibly appealing and certainly warrants a closer look. The carnivore diet taps into a primal narrative, a story that we are simply returning to the way our ancestors ate. Proponents argue that for millions of years humans were primarily hunters thriving on fatty meat. They suggest that our modern, grain-heavy diets are a recent experiment and the root cause of many chronic diseases that plague society today. This evolutionary perspective gives the diet a sense of legitimacy and a powerful backstory. It is not just a fad, they argue, but a return to our biological baseline. It is this combination of personal testimonials, promised health benefits, and a compelling historical narrative that makes the all-meat experiment so fascinating to so many. When you begin a carnivore diet, the first thing most people notice is a rapid drop in weight. In the first week alone, it is not uncommon to see the scales go down by several kilograms. However, it is important to understand what is happening inside your body. Much of this initial weight loss is not fat but water. Carbohydrates, which are completely absent from this diet, are stored in your muscles and liver as glycogen. For every gram of glycogen, your body stores about 3 to 4 grams of water. When you stop eating carbs, your body uses up these glycogen stores, releasing all that stored water along with it. This dramatic shift can be quite motivating, but it often comes with a challenging transition period, commonly known as the keto flu or adaptation phase. As your body switches its primary fuel source from glucose, which comes from carbs, to ketones, which come from fat, you might experience a range of unpleasant symptoms. These can include headaches, fatigue, irritability, nausea, and muscle cramps. This happens because your body is essentially rewiring its metabolic engine. It is a significant shock to the system, and it can take anywhere from a few days to a couple of weeks to adapt fully. It is a reminder that changing your diet so drastically is a serious undertaking. During this time, your digestive system is also undergoing a major adjustment. For years, it has been processing a mix of fiber, carbohydrates, and proteins. Suddenly, it is only receiving fat and protein. This can lead to changes in bowel movements. Some people experience diarrhea, while others may have constipation. Your gut microbiome, the vast community of bacteria living in your intestines, will also change significantly. The bacteria that thrive on plant fibers will diminish, while those that are better suited to digesting meat and fat will begin to flourish. This is a profound biological shift with long-term implications we are only just beginning to understand. However, once you get through this initial adaptation phase, many people report a surge in positive effects. The keto flu subsides, and in its place comes a feeling of steady, consistent energy. The highs and lows associated with blood sugar spikes from carbohydrates disappear. Many individuals report feeling mentally sharper and more focused than ever before. It is this promise of a better state of being on the other side of the difficult transition that encourages people to persevere. The initial weeks are a test of commitment, but for those who push through, the reported rewards can be substantial. When we look for robust, long-term scientific evidence on the carnivore diet, we find ourselves in somewhat uncharted territory. There are no large-scale randomized controlled trials, the gold standard of medical research, that have studied a zero-carb, all-meat diet for an extended period. This lack of data means that much of what we know is based on smaller studies, anecdotal reports, and research on similar low-carbohydrate ketogenic diets. These studies do provide some valuable clues. For instance, we know that ketogenic diets can be effective for weight loss and improving blood sugar control in people with type 2 diabetes. One of the most famous historical accounts comes from the Arctic explorer Vilhjalmur Stefansson. In the early 20th century, he lived with the Inuit and observed their traditional diet, which consisted almost exclusively of meat and fish. To prove that such a diet was safe, he and a fellow explorer underwent a year-long medically supervised experiment in New York's Bellevue Hospital in 1928. For a full year, they ate only meat. Doctors monitored them closely and, to their surprise, found no signs of ill health. In fact, their health remained excellent, with no evidence of vitamin deficiencies like scurvy, which was a major concern at the time. Modern expert opinions on the carnivore diet are deeply divided. Some doctors and nutritionists are highly critical, warning of potential long-term risks such as nutrient deficiencies, high cholesterol, and an increased risk of heart disease and certain cancers. They point to decades of research that has linked high fruit and vegetable intake with better health outcomes. On the other side of the debate, a growing number of physicians and researchers are more open to the idea. They argue that many of the concerns are based on assumptions rather than direct evidence, and highlight the potential therapeutic benefits for specific conditions like autoimmune diseases. One of the key scientific concepts at play is ketosis. This is the metabolic state your body enters when it burns fat for fuel instead of glucose. Research on ketosis has shown potential benefits beyond weight loss, including neuroprotective effects that might be helpful for conditions like epilepsy and Alzheimer's disease. While the carnivore diet is a very extreme form of a ketogenic diet, some of its reported benefits, such as improved mental clarity, could be linked to this metabolic state. However, the scientific community remains cautious, emphasizing that more rigorous long-term research is desperately needed before any definitive conclusions can be drawn. Perhaps the biggest concern that people have about the carnivore diet is its potential impact on heart health. For decades, we have been advised to limit our intake of red meat and saturated fat to protect our hearts. The carnivore diet seems to fly in the face of this advice, as it is naturally very high in both. The conventional view is that high consumption of saturated fat raises levels of LDL cholesterol, often called bad cholesterol, which is a major risk factor for the buildup of plaque in the arteries, leading to heart disease. This is a serious and well-founded concern that cannot be easily dismissed. However, the relationship between dietary fat, cholesterol, and heart disease is proving to be more complex than we once thought. Some recent research suggests that the picture is not so simple. The type of LDL particles might matter more than the total number. Some studies indicate that while a high-fat diet can increase LDL, it often increases the large, fluffy type of LDL particles, which are thought to be less harmful than the small, dense particles. Proponents of the carnivore diet argue that when you remove carbohydrates, especially sugar and refined grains, the inflammatory environment that contributes to heart disease is greatly reduced, potentially mitigating the risks of high-fat intake. Another significant worry is the risk of nutrient deficiencies. Plants are our primary source of certain vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. Vitamin C, for instance, is famously found in fruits and vegetables. How can you avoid scurvy on an all-meat diet? The answer may lie in the fact that fresh meat, especially organ meats like liver, contains small amounts of vitamin C. Furthermore, some researchers suggest that the body's need for vitamin C is much lower when carbohydrates are not present. The same goes for other nutrients like fiber, which is completely absent. While conventional wisdom says fiber is essential for gut health, carnivore advocates argue it is unnecessary and can even be irritating for some people. The long-term safety of the carnivore diet remains the biggest unknown. What happens to your body after 5, 10, or 20 years of eating only meat? We simply do not have the data to say for sure. Concerns about an increased risk of certain cancers, particularly colorectal cancer, which has been linked to high red meat consumption in some observational studies, are valid. There are also questions about the potential strain on the kidneys from a very high-protein diet. Without long-term studies, embarking on the carnivore diet is an experiment with an uncertain outcome, and these potential risks must be weighed carefully against the reported benefits. For generations, we've been taught that a balanced diet must include a colorful variety of fruits and vegetables. They're packed with vitamins, minerals, fiber, and antioxidants, compounds that, protect our cells from damage. The 5-a-day message is deeply ingrained in our public health consciousness. Plants provide us with nutrients like vitamin C, potassium, and folate. They also contain thousands of phytonutrients, which are believed to have anti-inflammatory and cancer-fighting properties. From this perspective, a diet that completely eliminates plants seems nutritionally incomplete and potentially dangerous, cutting off a vital source of protective compounds. However, proponents of the carnivore diet offer a counter-argument. They claim that animal foods are, in fact, more nutritionally dense and bioavailable. This means that the nutrients in meat such as iron, vitamin B12, and zinc are in a form that our bodies can absorb and use more easily than the nutrients found in plants. For example, the heme iron from meat is far more readily absorbed than the non-heme iron from spinach. They also point out that all essential vitamins and minerals needed for human survival can be found in animal products, especially if you include organ meats like liver and heart, which are, honestly, incredibly nutrient-rich. The discussion also turns to anti-nutrients. These are natural compounds found in many plants that can interfere with the absorption of vitamins and minerals. Examples include phytates in grains and legumes, which can bind to minerals like iron and zinc, and oxalates in leafy greens like spinach, which can contribute to the formation of kidney stones in susceptible individuals. For some people, particularly those with sensitive digestive systems or autoimmune conditions, these plant compounds might also act as irritants, triggering inflammation and other gut-related symptoms. The carnivore diet's core principle is that by eliminating these potential troublemakers, the gut is given a chance to heal. Ultimately, the plant versus meat debate highlights two very different philosophies of nutrition. One sees health in variety and the synergistic effects of thousands of plant compounds. The other sees health in the elimination of potential irritants and a focus on the most bioavailable sources of essential nutrients. It's possible that the optimal diet varies greatly from person to person. An individual with a robust digestive system may thrive on a plant-rich diet, while someone with severe gut issues might find temporary relief and healing by focusing exclusively on animal foods. The truth is likely not a one-size-fits-all answer, but something far more personal. A key argument in favor of the carnivore diet is that it aligns with our evolutionary past. The theory goes that for the vast majority of human history, our ancestors were hunter-gatherers who subsisted primarily on large, fatty animals. Agriculture and the introduction of grains and legumes into our diet is a very recent development, occurring only in the last 10,000 years or so. This is honestly a mere blink of an eye in evolutionary terms. Proponents suggest that our genes are still best adapted to the diet of our Stone Age ancestors, and that the shift to a carbohydrate-based diet is the root cause of modern diseases of civilization like obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. Evidence from archaeology and anthropology does lend some support to this idea. Studies of ancient human remains using techniques like stable isotope analysis have shown that early humans occupied a very high position on the food chain, similar to that of top predators like wolves and hyenas. They were clearly consuming a lot of meat. Ancient cave paintings depict dramatic hunting scenes, and archaeological sites are often littered with the bones of large mammoths and other megafauna, alongside the stone tools used to butcher them. This evidence strongly suggests that meat was not just a part of their diet, it was a central and vital component for survival. However, the picture is not quite that simple. The idea that all our ancestors were exclusively carnivores is likely an oversimplification. The diet of early humans would have varied enormously depending on their location, the climate, and the season. In the icy north, a nearly all-meat diet like that of the traditional Inuit would have been necessary for survival. But in more temperate or tropical regions, our ancestors would have certainly gathered and eaten plant foods when they were available. They would have consumed tubers, berries, nuts, and other wild plants. Most anthropologists believe that humans evolved as opportunistic omnivores, able to thrive on a wide variety of foods. So while it is true that humans have a long history of eating meat and are well adapted to it, It is probably inaccurate to claim that we evolved to eat only meat. Our evolutionary success story is one of flexibility and adaptability. We were able to survive and flourish in almost every environment on Earth precisely because we could make use of whatever food sources were available, be they animal or plant. This historical context does not necessarily invalidate the carnivore diet as a potential therapeutic tool for some people today, but it does challenge the claim that it is the single, species-appropriate diet for all humans. Beyond the scientific theories and historical debates, what truly fuels the carnivore movement are the personal stories of transformation. Online forums, social media groups, and blogs are filled with thousands of testimonials from people who claim the diet has changed their lives. These anecdotes, while not scientific proof, are powerful and persuasive. People share dramatic before and after photos showcasing significant weight loss. They write detailed accounts of how debilitating symptoms from conditions like Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and chronic fatigue syndrome have vanished after they switched to an all-meat diet. For many, these stories offer a glimmer of hope where traditional medicine has failed. One of the most well-known modern proponents is Dr. Shawn Baker, an orthopedic surgeon who popularized the term carnivore diet. He attributes his own athletic achievements and robust health in his 50s to eating a diet of almost exclusively red meat. His personal story, combined with his medical background, has inspired a huge following. Another prominent figure is Mikhaila Peterson, who has spoken extensively about her lifelong battle with severe autoimmune arthritis and depression. She claims that an extremely restrictive carnivore diet, consisting only of beef, salt, and water, put her conditions into complete remission, allowing her to live a normal life without medication. These stories often follow a similar pattern. The person is typically struggling with a chronic health issue that has not responded to conventional treatments. They feel desperate and are willing to try anything. They stumble upon the carnivore diet often with a great deal of skepticism. After a difficult initial adaptation period, they begin to experience remarkable improvements in their symptoms, their energy returns, their pain subsides, and their mental health improves. These personal accounts are incredibly compelling because they speak to a deep human desire for healing and control over one's own health. Of course, it is important to approach these anecdotes with a critical mind. The placebo effect can be very powerful, and the act of taking control of one's diet can have profound psychological benefits. Furthermore, people who have a negative experience on the diet are less likely to share their story publicly, leading to a potential survivorship bias in the testimonials we see. A 2021 survey conducted by a group of researchers at Harvard University looked at over 2,000 people on a carnivore diet. They reported high levels of satisfaction and improvements in health, but the study relied on self-reported data and was not a controlled clinical trial. These stories are a starting point for investigation, not a final conclusion. The debate around the carnivore diet is so intense because it touches upon some of the biggest questions in nutrition science. On one hand, we have what we know for certain. We know that animal products are a rich source of essential nutrients like vitamin B12, heme iron, and complete protein. We know that by eliminating carbohydrates, the body will enter a state of ketosis, which can lead to rapid weight loss and stable blood sugar levels. We also know from decades of research that diets high in fruits and vegetables are associated with a lower risk of many chronic diseases. These are the established facts that form the bedrock of mainstream nutritional advice. Then there are the big unknowns, the areas where the science is still very much out for deliberation. The long-term effects of a zero-fiber diet on the gut microbiome are a major question mark. While some people report improved digestion, we do not fully understand the consequences of starving the trillions of gut bacteria that feed on plant fiber. Are we losing beneficial species that play a crucial role in our long-term health? Similarly, the true impact of a high intake of saturated fat in the absence of carbohydrates is still fiercely debated. The conventional model of heart disease may not fully apply in this unique metabolic context. The conversation is also complicated by what is uncertain and difficult to study. Individual responses to diets vary enormously. What works as a miracle for one person might be ineffective or even harmful for another. This variability is likely due to genetics, lifestyle, and the state of a person's existing health and gut microbiome. This makes it incredibly difficult to give one-size-fits-all dietary advice. A short-term, therapeutic carnivore diet for someone with a severe autoimmune disease is a very different proposition from a lifelong commitment to the diet for an otherwise healthy individual. The context matters immensely. This is why the carnivore diet remains on the fringes of mainstream science yet continues to grow in popularity. It exists in the gap between established knowledge and the personal experiences of thousands of people. The scientific community rightly demands rigorous long-term evidence before it can endorse such an extreme eating pattern. Meanwhile, individuals who have found relief from suffering are not willing to wait for studies that may take decades to complete. This tension between scientific caution and individual experimentation is at the very heart of the great carnivore debate, and it is a conversation that is likely to continue for many years to come. If the stories and potential benefits of the carnivore diet have piqued your interest, it is crucial to approach it with caution and careful consideration. This is not a diet to be started lightly. The first and most important piece of advice is to speak with a doctor or a qualified healthcare professional before making such a drastic change to your eating habits. This is especially important if you have any pre-existing medical conditions, such as kidney disease, or if you are taking any medications. A professional can help you assess the potential risks and benefits for your specific situation, and may be able to monitor your health along the way. If you do decide to proceed, preparation is key. Do not just jump in overnight. Spend some time researching what the diet entails and plan your meals. A common mistake is not eating enough fat. A diet of lean chicken breast and fish will leave you feeling tired and hungry. The carnivore diet is, by its nature, a high-fat diet. You need to focus on fatty cuts of meat like ribeye steak, salmon, and beef brisket to provide your body with the energy it needs. Also, be prepared for the initial adaptation phase. Make sure you have plenty of electrolytes, sodium, potassium, and magnesium on hand to help manage the symptoms of the keto flu. It is also wise to think about the diet as an elimination tool rather than a permanent lifestyle choice, at least at first. Many people use it as a short-term intervention for 30, 60, or 90 days to identify potential food sensitivities. After this period, they may slowly and systematically reintroduce other foods, one at a time, to see how their body reacts. This can be a very effective way to discover which specific plant foods might be causing them problems. This approach is less extreme and allows you to build a long-term sustainable diet that is personalized to your own needs and tolerances. Finally, listen to your body. This is perhaps the most important rule of any dietary experiment. Pay close attention to how you feel, both physically and mentally. Keep a journal to track your energy levels, mood, digestion, and any other symptoms. While many people report feeling fantastic on the carnivore diet, it is not for everyone. If you feel consistently unwell, weak, or unhappy, it may not be the right approach for you. Your personal experience and how your body responds should always be your ultimate guide. Health is a personal journey, and the goal is to find what makes you feel your best in the long run.